Hey house guests, welcome to today's Big Brother 18 updates and spoilers. Our house guest of the day is Emily Smith. Emily, I hope you're enjoying the roller coaster this week. Today is no different, but if you guys want to be house guests of the day, check out our Patreon link in the info box below, and thanks again, Emily, for your support. Okay, let's get started because, wow. So yesterday I told you guys that it was looking like Operation Save Tiffany was dead. Well, Frankenstein has been brought back to life. We're gonna have to start calling Tiffany Tiffenstein. I don't know. Maybe. We'll see. We'll workshop it. So, Frank and Nicole were talking about the game yesterday, talking about next week, because Frank has already, he's wrapped this up. He's pretty sure that Tiffany's going this week, so that's a done deal. So Frank is like, either my team or your team, Nicole, is gonna have to win the HOH tomorrow, because he wants to keep Davon's team available for nominations, especially Davon. He's thinking about getting rid of her. And also, keep those spy girls, Bronte and Natalie, available either as pawns or as targets if he can't get somebody bigger. So then Frank was talking about how he's annoyed because James is super protective of Natalie. He doesn't even want her to go up as a pawn. And Frank is like, she's effing gonna have to go up. Get over it. So then Frank was talking some crap about Natalie and Bronte, and he called them, immature, stupid little girls because they want to get rid of boys. And I just have to say, Frank, how mature is it to freaking walk around the house all day trying to entertain people with your farts? Really? Really? Alright, so, my eyes are so watery. So, Nicole and Day, I'm not crying. Nicole and Day were having a strategy chat, and Day is like, I want Tiffany to stay this week, but it looks like we're not going to have the votes. I wonder why, Nicole. Maybe you can answer that. So Nicole is like, yeah, it sucks, man. Oh, man. So then Nicole is claiming, I only trust 3 friggin' people in this house. So she says, Day, Zakiya, and Michelle. So Day's like, yeah, so who do you think that we should work with moving forward? Because they got some options here with alliances. So Day's asking her, do you think we should stick with the Fatal 4, assuming that Tiffany is leaving this week? Or should we go with that showman's group of 5, which is Day, Nicole, Corey, Zakiya, and Pauly? So Nicole does not answer the question. A red flag! I think she answered it by not answering, but she's like, I don't know, Day, what do you think? We know what Day thinks. She doesn't want to be the 5th wheel with that showman's group. Screw that. So Day is like, well, Michelle would be really upset if we didn't work with her, and we don't want her going in the jury all bitter. So yeah, Day wants to work with the freaking Girls Alliance. So then, this is pretty funny. James was totally messing around with Frank in the Tokyo bedroom. I mean, he was hardcore trolling him. And it was fun to watch. So Frank was talking about maybe getting rid of Pauly next week. He's like, yeah, Pauly's a big threat, blah, 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 blah. And then Frank is like, yeah, that's great. Sorry, James is like, that's great and all, but what if we went for somebody else? So then Frank is pulling it out of him. James leads Frank to Day. And Frank sits up. He gets really excited. And he's like, you really thinking that? You really want to get rid of Day? I didn't think you were going to be on board for that. Because you guys were on the same season. I thought maybe you had something going. And James is like, oh, what? I voted her out last season. No, I'll vote her out again. So James is saying he's down for whatever the house wants. And this is hilarious because we know that Day and James are very close. So James is just trying to get information and mess around with Frank right now. So Frank is like, yeah, I think Day really wants to make a big move. I don't know if it's going to happen next week or what, but I think she's going to want to do something big, and we need to beat her to it. Alright, so the fees went down last night for about half an hour or so while Big Brother was showing them 16 photoshopped photos to study for this week's HOH competition. So the photos were all vacation themed, and they featured Glenn, Jose, and Victor. That's hilarious. So, it's some sort of memory competition. I don't know if it's going to be true or false or what. We'll find out. But it should be fun. I always love when they have, the photoshopped stuff. It's a good time. So, of course, there's a lot of studying last night. And Bronte and Natalie were upstairs studying and chatting, and they're pretty nervous because Frank told them, like, I won this competition on my season. So they know that there's a good chance that he could win. But Bronte's like, you know what? I don't care who goes home as long as it's not the two of us. So then she was saying, even if Frank did win, I don't think that he's going to target us because he's close to Bridget. I wouldn't be too sure about that, though, because Frank did put your asses up twice with the roadkill, so you never know. That being said, they would like to see Frank and his team lose so that he can go up on the block, because they know that everybody right now is like, oh, we gotta get rid of Frank, gotta get rid of Frank. So they'd like to see that play out. Alright, so then Nicole and Frank were chatting in the safari room, and Frank lets her know. I was talking to James earlier. He's cool with getting rid of Day next week. I'm not even the one who brought it up. James brought it up to me. And Nicole's just like, I don't know, like, that's really sketchy. She was like, that sounds really weird. Yeah, because it is. But anyway, they were talking more about how they trust each other, and they really want to solidify that alliance of 4 with Bridget and Corey. So they're going to work on that. Or will they? This is where things get interesting, okay? This is where, again, the tide turns. I feel like we've had so many turning tides. It's hard to stay on that surfboard. It's crazy. So Michelle and Corey were chatting about this week's vote. And they're confused why they're voting out someone from their own alliance when there's still all these other people on the other side. So they're like, yeah, the 8-pack was supposed to stick together until we got rid of those 3 girls and Paul, but they're all still here, and here's our freaking alliance trying to vote out Tiffany. So Michelle's like, well, we have the votes to keep her, so why aren't we? Again, maybe you should ask Nicole why not, or ask Pauly, but she's like, yeah, I think Pauly really had a lot of sway there. So then Corey's like, bringing up some concerns about Davon. He's like, I don't really trust her. I think that she's targeting me. And Michelle's like, yeah, I've never heard that from Davon. I really don't think she's after you. So then Corey's asking her, well, who do you trust more, Davon or Frank? Because it's pretty obvious that Day and Frank are going after each other. So, like, whose side are you on? So Michelle says Day. For sure. Alright, so then Michelle was talking to Nicole, and again, it's a similar conversation. They agree that it does not make sense for them to keep Bronte over Tiffany. Tiffany's not even going after them. Tiffany's going after Frank. So Michelle's like, you know what? We've got these votes. We should just go through with it and keep Tiffany, even if Pauly is pissed. Oh well. So then they're like, why is Pauly so against us getting rid of Bronte? Does he have a deal with Bronte? What's the deal? What's going on? So then Pauly comes into the room, of course, perfect timing, and Michelle asks, like, do you still think that we should get rid of Tiffany? And he's like, I don't know. So then Michelle starts making pretty much the same argument that we were hearing the other day from Michelle and Davon, but this time they add a couple little key things here. Nicole's like, oh, well, we've got that memory competition coming up. Like, Tiffany could be really good at that. Maybe she could win that and take out Frank for us. And Michelle brings up, like, yeah, I was talking to Bridget the other day, and she said straight up that Bronte and Natalie are targeting you, Pauly. So Pauly's like, wait, what? So just like that, the light turns on in Pauly's head, and now he wants to vote out Bronte and keep Tiffany. Or Bronte. So he's like, I'll talk to Zakiya about it. We'll get these votes. So a little while later, Corey and Zakiya come in, and they both also agree to vote out Bronte this week, just like that. So there you go, 5 votes for Tiffany to stay. But this is the weird part. They're not sure if they're going to tell Day and James about this before the vote. So they're just like leaving them out there to dry when they were the ones who initially wanted to keep Tiffany. I don't understand that at all. I think that's like gonna cause some unnecessary drama. What the fuck? Alright, so then Nicole goes and tells Tiffany, like, we definitely have the votes to keep you safe. We've got 5. So Tiffany's very happy about it. But at the same time, like, if I was Tiffany and they were telling me all week that I was going to be safe, and then all of a sudden, the night before, someone comes to me all excited and is like, we have the votes, I would think, like, didn't you have the votes all week? Like, that's a little weird. Sure. But I think Tiffany was just happy that she got this confirmation. She's like, whatever. So then Tiffany was in the have-not room with Paulie, Nicole, and Corey, and Paulie is so freaking giddy. He cannot wait to see the look on Frank's face and the other people's faces. And Tiffany's like, oh, you mean like next week when he goes up on the block? And Paulie's like, no, like when you stay this week. And Tiffany's like, oh, he thought I was going home? So yeah, she's putting the pieces together here, and Paulie's like, oh yeah, Frank, he thought you were going home for sure, it's gonna be unanimous. Yeah, guess what, Tiffany? They were all lying to you all freaking week. So some of the house guests stayed up late as hell last night. There was a lot of studying, just a lot of, like, chitter-chatter. A lot of people were really excited about The Blind Side tomorrow. And Corey and James ended up staying up the whole night. So they're going to be really tired later. But anyway, this afternoon, the Chuckleheads finally clued in James and Day on the plan to keep Tiffany. So I think it was Nicole and Michelle who were telling them, and then Paulie joined in later. But they tell them, like, yeah, we're going to keep Tiffany, but we want the vote to be 5-4 so that Frank is, like, freaking out trying to figure out who voted to keep her, and it'll throw off his focus for the HOH competition. So James is like, wait, we're keeping Tiffany now? Okay, but who are we voting out? So James is suggesting getting rid of Paul because he doesn't want to lose another team member. Bronte's on his team, and they're like, no, it's gotta be Bronte going because she's targeting Paulie, and that's why Paulie agreed to flip his vote. So we're gonna have to just suck it up and go with Bronte. So James is like, I mean, he's not happy about it, but it is what it is. So then they talk more about how they want the vote to be 5-4 so that Frank is confused, and I just can see this going so wrong. Because then Corey was like, oh, I want to flip my vote and, like, somebody else can do mine, and blah, blah, blah. And it was just, like, getting really confusing, and if anybody was going to mess up this vote, it would be this group of 5. I mean, it's just ridiculous. So I'm not sure exactly who is voting for Tiffany to stay and for Bronte to go, but the vote is supposed to be 5-4. We'll see if that actually happens tonight. It's definitely going to be interesting. It is going to be interesting. So let me know who you guys are hoping for to be the next HOH. And until tomorrow, much love.